All right. Hello, everyone. Let's hope it works this time. Uh, can everybody see the slideshow?
Yes.
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 Cool. All right. So, in the slideshow, you're seeing CPUs. That's a computer part that I'll be talking about today. I'm going to be talking about the company AMD versus Intel. A lot of people have heard of Intel. They've had a market share. Um, they've pretty much owned the entire market of CPUs for a while, but AMD, I think, makes a better product. So today I'm going to be trying to convince you to buy into an AMD if you need to build a computer. So there's a lot of numbers that kind of get confusing. I think that some companies will brand their products confusing on purpose. It kind of sucks. And then we'll get into some stats and stuff. So we're going to start off with the gaming side of everything. If you like to play video games like Stardew Valley or Minecraft or serious stuff, like Call of Duty and all that. So AMD has these CPUs that are called X3D CPUs. They're built different. Intel doesn't do it. And they kind of just wipe the floor with anything Intel has. Um, the One of the stats I found from notebookcheck.com says that the AMD has 25% more performance compared to the Intel, so that's huge. If you're playing competitively online and your stuff is running a quarter better than everybody else's, you're obviously going to have an edge. Um, and then there's on the workstation side, the AMD, their Threadripper stuff is 33% better than Intel. Gamers Nexus found that out in some of their CPU testing. So if you're doing a third better just from your hardware than the other guy is, in a split second match, that can be a big thing. Um, some tests like rendering for jobs, if you're a 3D artist, or if you have a lot of crypto mining, or like you're doing some sort of math equation like workstations, some of the AMD stuff is 50% faster than the Intel stuff. So if you're trying to compete with somebody in another office or in another company and your computer's running twice as fast as theirs, there's obviously a plus there to go to AMD. But everybody knows Intel. It's a name that everyone knows, so they still own a lot of the market share. Um, and not just in power, AMD is trying to beat Intel in efficiency. So if you use less power to perform better, your company is going to see, and you yourself as a consumer is going to see less money to run the machine. So if you can run the machine for less money and it does better, it seems like a no-brainer. Um, the Threadripper is doing in a calculation they call watt per frame. So it's how much power the Threadripper is going to use to do one thing. It's using 12.9 watts, where the Intel competitor is using 31.7. Gamers Nexus calculated all that out. So it's like you're using half the power. Sometimes you're getting double the performance. It seems unreal because nothing else has a competition like that. But it's when the market stagnates, that's kind of what happens. A company gets complacent because they have all the profits, and then the little guy comes in and wants to beat them. Um, in the gaming side, the AMD has a frames per watt of 10.3. So on the gaming side, you want a higher number because you want more frames. Like in your first person shooters, if you're running 120 frames a second and they're running 60, you're seeing faster, or it feels like you're seeing faster. So the AMD is running 10 frames a second versus their Intel comparison is running 4 frames a second. It's honestly, it's like insane numbers. Um, there's also a cost value here. So for the gaming side, the AMD costs $480. The Intel costs $440. So yeah, there's a little bit more of a cost, but if you're spending close to $500, $40 for unmatched performance probably isn't going to turn you off at that point. The workstation ones are thousands of dollars on both sides. So like, oh my God, it's that's I'm not gonna get into that. Um, but like a middle of the road value braised on the AMD would be like $300, and the Intel's middle of the road is like $320. So there's not much of a price difference there, and those two would perform almost the same. So when AMD wants to be cheaper than Intel, they perform the same, and when they want to just be more expensive, they just blow them out of the water. Then there's also the cost of all the computer components around the CPU. So AMD keeps the socket that you plug the CPU into. They've had the same socket since 2016, the AM4. They've had one new one called the AM5, but they're still making AM4 CPUs. So since 2016, Intel has had four different CPU socket revisions. So if you wanted to keep up with the brand as they release new products, which isn't a good idea, not only would you have to buy four CPUs, but you would have had to buy four motherboards and other things to help the computer upgrade with it. Whereas if you're going AMD, you wouldn't have had to buy any of that. You just buy the main component, plug it in, and you would be great. Um, and another thing with the socket changing on the Intel, they've ran into some issues from that. Level 1 Tech did some testing and they found that the motherboards for the new CPUs were sending too much power. So you had a almost brand new whole computer, and it's like it was rushed out through quality checks, and it would just shoot all the power it could to your computer, and it would cause your computer to overwork itself, and it would cause damage over time. And there was also a manufacturing defect with the Intel that would cause some damage over time. Its rust would actually form inside the CPU due to a manufacturing defect. So it's a lot of cost, and then you have a computer down because of issues that should have been caught in quality check anyway. So it really feels a little insane to say, but like Intel is not the way to go. You should be going AMD if you're wanting to build a computer, whether that be gaming or workstation nowadays. Um, like I said, most every category, AMD will beat Intel out. Um, Even server hosting, competition is very healthy for a market, and there just hasn't been enough competition for Intel to innovate and keep their quality check up. So hopefully more people will go to AMD soon, and if you want to build a computer, hopefully you will too. And so then we can get Intel back to being great, and AMD can continue to be great, and the consumer will win. So thank you for showing up and listening to me, everybody. Hope y'all have a happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks, you too.